everyone. I am so glad that you are joining me for this month's Girl Chat. This one is really, really special. One, it is November, which is Adoption Month or Adoption Awareness Month, however you want to term that. And as many of you know, I adopted, y'all, there's a spider. Oh God, hold. Woo. Okay. Y'all. We're not doing no spiders. We just not. So anyways, as I was saying, many of you know that we adopted our daughter last October. Well, she came to our home in October. It was finalized this year. And during that process, we made some really, really good friends, some really, really good connections. And I thought that it would be great to bring one of those connections on this month to talk about something really special. So before we jump into our topic, would you like to introduce yourself to the girls?
Yes, my name is Desiree. My husband and I are youth pastors in Lakeland, Florida. So like Petra said, I was one of the connections. So I adopted a daughter as well at the end of 2019, Noelle. So she's almost 2 now, which is crazy. Like I was just
That's crazy.
So I'm a stay-at-home mom. But I have a little side hustle, a little photography business that's going really well. So yeah.
Yes, we love it. We love it. We love it. And we're going to make sure that she gives you all the deets on the side hustle, which is turning into a full-fledged business.
Yes.
So we're going to make sure we give you all those deets at the end. But first, before we get there, we want to jump into some good girl chat. And so this month, we are talking about building intentional relationship, specifically for us with our adopted daughters and for you with your daughters, right? Or if they're adopted, if they're stepdaughters, it really doesn't matter. It's really about building intentional relationship with your daughters. This is a community of women, and we want to focus on raising up the next generation well. That's the goal. That's the goal. So Des, if you are ready to jump in, I'm ready.
Good. Yeah.
Yes, perfect. So let's hop right into it. What was the first thing that you wanted to focus on when you were talking about building this relationship with your daughter? Even as an infant, what was something?
Oh gosh. Well, so I kind of so with the whole adoption thing, if I'm transparent, like one of my biggest things that I was kind of like really nervous about was bonding with her. Just because, she's with her birth mom, for 9 months. And then it's like, here I am, a stranger, like coming in, gonna see her, take her home. Like, and so I was like, man, like, is she really gonna, be able to bond with me? Is she gonna like see me as mom? Like, that was just a real, big thing for me. So for me, like, even just from an infant, just like being with her as much as possible and like just having that time. So it was crazy because with the whole COVID thing, like, as unfortunate as that whole thing has been, like, finding a bright light in that was being locked in home, like with her, and so like, not just me, but even just the whole family, like just all of us being able to bond with her. I feel like that just really helped, solidify that foundation because we had that time, like she was with nobody else but us. So like now it's kind of like hit or miss because now she sees people and she's like, I don't know who you are, but she loves us.
But she loves you though.
So, exactly.
I mean, balance, right? Balance.
Right.
I love that because that was actually one of the things that I thought about. And I will be transparent. I had that with not only Evie, but with my boys as well, because as some of the girls know, who have been following me, I was not prepared to have children. That was not in my plan. Okay. Yeah. And hello. And so for me, it was like, okay, are you really ready for this? Are you going to be able to have a relationship with them? What does that look like? And it was beautiful because again, when I had Jack, it was just me and him because Rob was traveling. So I was at home. And then with Evie coming on, she's a COVID baby as well. And so this shutdown really, really helped us to be intentional about focusing on her and focusing on that bonding, but as a family unit, not just with me, even though I think if I can be transparent, it was hard because I wasn't nursing her and I nursed the boys, which I think kind of helped me in a
Mhm.
sense. Does that
Right,
kind of, and now this is, of course, we're not talking about nursing versus bottle feeding. That's
right.
not what we're talking about. We're literally talking about bonding and what I needed.
Yeah,
Right. And
right.
so I think I had even talked to you about that. Like, I was nervous. I was like, what we finna do with this child? What we finna do? Like, because this other person has carried her for 9, really 10 months,
Mhm,
kind of fed, talked to, engaged with, done life with, even though they weren't like, walking around with them, but literally they're walking around with them. And
mhm.
then you're, as a stranger, you're coming in and you're so excited and you're so happy, but there is still this fear of, are they gonna like me?
Yeah.
I think that was a whole thing, because I was like, I don't even know where the little humans I got came from. So, oh no, you know what I mean? Like, those are things. I'm just,
That's true. It's so true.
like, you have those thoughts and you're like, how do
Yeah.
we make this work? But I feel like God is really in the details, because again, like,
Mhm.
the shutdown is crazy and it was weird and all these things, but then you have these little ones that you have a fear of, will you bond with? And then it's like, you have no choice.
Yeah.
All they know is you.
Mhm.
And that's huge. So how do you kind of, I know that now the world is kind of opening up and our children are getting introduced to people. And so again, we're talking about that balance of them loving us most, because that's the only balance I
Right.
want. But how do we continue to foster that relationship, like with your daughters, especially as they're getting older? Because Noelle is almost 2,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
means that her personality is probably coming in full force,
Oh my goodness,
coming in
yes.
hot.
So sassy.
So how do you develop that? How do you get to their level? Like, being mom, being friends, realizing that there may be some parts of their personality that don't come from you.
Mhm.
So how does that work? How do you plan to address that, or how are you addressing that if you are?
Yeah, so I mean, I think even now, so growing up, I was always like just like a real, like a good listener. I didn't get in trouble, anything like that. So
Yep.
my son is a lot like that. But Noelle's the wild child. So she's like in everything, doesn't listen, like all of that. So I mean, that's even been a challenge, but just like, man, just loving her through that, I think is like
Yes.
so important. Like, making sure I'm not comparing her to like
Mm,
how my son Nehemiah was like, oh, you're not like him, or oh, like, so
yeah.
just like loving her through that. And then just like, you know, I can tell just certain habit traits that she's having. So like she's very like hands-on and like she wants to explore things and like be outside and all these different things. And so
Mm,
I think just like finding activities for us to do that allows her to do that, as opposed to be always telling her like, hey, don't touch that. No, don't do that. Like, so like, if she
I
wants
love
to like
that.
get in everything, okay, well, let's make a game of it. Let me hide something and let's like play and bond that way and build that relationship. Um, I think for now, that's kind of what I'm doing, like in this
Yeah.
young age. But as she gets older, just like taking time to just talk to her, like having conversations and like, not just assuming because I've had her since birth that like I know her. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
so, and I think another big thing is I don't know if you guys are still in contact with the birth mom. But I have some contact with her, not as much, but we'll text every now and then. And so, I
Yeah.
mean, I've even reached out to her about things like, hey, how is this like for you growing up, and kind of
Oh,
seeing
that's
if there's
good.
any correlations between like things that I'm noticing in her now and like her birth mom, and if there's ways that I can kind of like help facilitate that, or just things
I
like that.
love that.
But yeah.
I love that. I think what I love the most is that you're not trying to change Noelle. You
Mhm.
tell me, like, okay, I noticed that she's completely different from Nehemiah. This is a thing. I don't know where this came from, but we're going to work with this. And I think that that's really important, because you said, I'm going to love her through this. And really what you're saying is, I'm loving her as she is.
Yeah.
I think that that's a part of the thing. And now, we're not saying if your kid is going wild and going ham, that you're supposed to, yes, absolutely run into the street. That's a great idea. Come on, y'all. Like, that's not what we're saying. Like, making poor decisions is not what we are advocating for. What we're saying is that sometimes a lot of the things, that we see as barriers are really ways to bond, really ways to build intentional relationships. So you notice she likes to go outside. She likes to get into things. She likes to run around. She likes to be louder. She likes to do this. So how about we figure out ways to both bring her joy, but also bring peace to our household, right?
Exactly.
I mean, because that's
control
what it is. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, I get that because it's so funny. You're talking about Noel. I'm like, oh my God, that's Evie. Oh my, like with the boys, we did not have to do the socket covers. We didn't have to worry about them pulling out a bunch of stuff. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
and her, we turn around. I mean, the whole house is a wreck in 5 seconds. And we're like,
yes.
what happened? Like, and it's so funny because she has this personality all her own. She's so talkative. You know, she doesn't do words yet, but she's super, super talkative and just all over the place. But I love how you're saying, like, I try to incorporate the things that she likes in a way that doesn't disrupt the house. Like, yeah, it requires we do a little extra things and things that we may not have had to do before, but it doesn't make them bad things. It makes them different things. And even being able to talk to her birth mom about, you know, how she would have handled it, or how she has handled it, or did this happen to her when she was younger? Those types of questions. That's also super helpful because I think that one of the misconceptions about adoption is that you have to be afraid of the birth family. Now, there are some that you may not be able to have relationship with, but now it's pretty often that you have these relationships where you can at least talk a little bit. You may not hang out, but you can talk a little bit. And a part of what I also hear you saying is to have relationship with my daughter, I choose to have relationship with her birth mother.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that that's a thing because it does scare people. I've had that question, like, aren't you afraid they're going to pop up? And I mean, I talked to you about that. I was like, now look, we ain't doing no drive-bys. We ain't doing none of that. And you're like, that doesn't happen. I was like, are you sure? Because I don't play about that. We're doing that. But it is really important to realize that, especially in adoption, they're a gift, right? They're a gift. Like the birth family is a gift. You have extra insight into history, into relationship, into medical needs, like all of these things, if you're able to do that. And so automatically thinking that you have to do it on your own, like building this purposeful relationship, isn't necessarily true. It is true in some instances, of course, it is true. But in others, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I love that though.
Yeah.
I love
and I think a big part of it too is just, and I don't even think this is just for like adopted parents, but I think just like moms in general is like getting over our own insecurities, you know, because I feel like a lot of times, like, well, because I know this for me for sure, like I'll get in my own way, even with like some of our youth students. I'm like, man, they intimidate me, like, you know, and it's just kind of like getting over my own insecurity. Like, no, like I'm here to, you know, help them, encourage them, nurture them, like not about me, like get over myself. So,
and that's hard.
Yeah.
It's super hard, especially because as adults, we look back and we're like, wow, we made some poor decisions. Wow. That was a bad idea, you know, and then you see somebody else and you're like, I really, really, really want to keep you from doing that. I really want to just do all the things. But the reality is that they have free will.
Yeah.
They have free will. And so it's not just being a good example for them, but it's also allowing them to exercise that within reason, allowing them to exercise that as they're growing and as they're maturing. And we see that even in our babies, right? Because has a lot of that. Y'all, my child has a lot of that. Like it's a thing, but it's a thing to welcome and to embrace. I think that's the thing. Now let's talk about how you build this relationship outside of your fears, outside of your insecurities, outside of the reality that some things you're just never going to know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. And I think that people don't think about that. There's some things you're just never going to know, especially with adoption. That's hard. So how do you plan to kind of keep building with that in mind?
Well, I think we see a lot of this lately, but just the whole like mindset, like starting, you know, from your mind, from the inside, like working from the inside out. And so Just making sure like even now continuing like the habits that are helping me like get rid of like all the negative thoughts, all the, all the stuff that's
Yeah.
holding me back. Because I think it really starts there, just making sure like we're healthy, because what we take in is what we're going to give out. So if we're not doing what we need to do for ourselves, like that's going to reflect on our kids as well. So I think that's a big thing right now for me, is just like working on my mind and my mindset, and making
Yeah.
sure that all of that is just like where it needs to be, so I can be who I need to be for her.
I
uh,
love that.
so yeah, I think that's a huge thing, that, and then I would say community, like
Mm.
having people around you that are gonna like pick you up, that are gonna encourage you, like when you're having those moments of like, man, like I just can't do this, like having that person there that's like, hey, I'm right there with you, but we got this, like we're gonna move forward. So I think those are like the two biggest things for me right now.
Yes. Yes. It's how well you nurture yourself and how well
Mhm.
you nurture the relationships that are going to nurture you.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a thing. And I think I literally have been embracing that more this year, like taking time, and it sounds weird, but taking time for myself. Because I'm one of those people, like I'm always going, I'm always doing, and saying yes to things and being involved in things.
Yeah.
And I think I was getting very much so drained and very much so burnt out. And just like you said, what we take is what we give out.
Mm-hmm.
And it started to affect my house. Like I was so unhappy and I was so miserable. And I was always tired and snappy and all these things. Like, I just need a break. And it's not about my family and it's not about my girl. Like, they're perfect. They're wonderful. But for me, I was like, you have to actually go away by yourself and think and be quiet and just cut everything off. And it has been so helpful, because
Mm-hmm.
when you talk about renewing your mindset, you can't renew your mindset if you're distracted.
Yeah, that's
That's
true.
just impossible. And I want to emulate the good behaviors that I want her to take into her adulthood. Like, take care of you. Like, you matter. Your mind matters. Your time matters. Your energy matters. Right. And we can say that to them, but if we're not actually doing that, I'm like, well, what are
Mm-hmm.
you talking about? Because you always tired and you mad.
Right, exactly.
Because Jack will tell me all the time, he's like, well, I think you need a break. So, and I mean, and he just walks off. Like, he'd be like, I don't know how to help you, but you need a break. Like, you done. And I think it's so important, because, and then like on top of having the community that you're talking about, having those friends that not only recognize that, but support it. You know what I mean? Not that people like, girl, you need to just buckle up and just be the superwoman and get everything done and push everything out. Sometimes being the superhero is actually saying no.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have boundaries. You have to check your capacity. You have to know your margins, like all of these things. Because again, when you're talking about building relationship, you want to build it from a place of overflow and not a place of deficit.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you teach your daughter to do that. You teach her to constantly expend all of her energy, all of her time, all of her love, all of those things, and she never takes anything in. And I think that that was something that I really had to learn, especially looking at Evie and how to say this. She's very much so a girl, so very emotional, very much so player. I can tell something's up and you're not talking to me, so you need to talk to me. She's that girl. Like, she's like that. And I was like, oh, she may not be able to verbalize certain things, but she absolutely is telling me, like,
Yeah.
I need balance. I need to know that certain things are okay. Like, she wants to play by herself sometimes, or sometimes she wants tons of attention. And being okay with that and understanding that every child is different.
Yeah.
But with girls, I think that we are trained very young to do all the things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. And
Yeah.
sometimes you got to figure out that your capacity is not all, it is some.
Right.
It is some. And that's the thing. Because I noticed that you started your business.
Mm-hmm.
So taking that on.
Yes.
But a part of me felt like that was self-care, because I felt like, and this is just me, and I could totally be assuming, you could totally tell me absolutely not, but I'm going to say it anyways. I feel like it was part of self-care. I felt like it was something that you had been wanting to do, and you had kind of been playing around with it and then kind of pushed it off. And then you kind of just made a decision and we're like, yeah, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna take the leap of faith and I'm gonna try. And for me, like watching it like through Instagram, I was like, this is total self-care. This is her doing something for her that has nothing to do with Isaiah, Nehemiah, Noel. Like, this is her. This is her by herself. Am I right?
Yes, you are correct.
Eh.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, I was just with the whole COVID thing, like it was just like, oh gosh, the whole time has just been so like eye-opening and just like as cliche as it sounds, like life is so short. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like nothing's
Yes.
guaranteed. And so, I'm the type of person where like I love being a stay-at-home mom, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I need something for me. Like, like it gets
Yes.
to a point where like the kids are just a whole lot. And um so I was just like dabbling in a lot of different things and like nothing was really clicking. And then one day Isaiah was like, why don't you just do photography? Like you do it anyway. Like I do pictures for the church and stuff. And so
Yep.
he was like, just try it, like see what happens. And I was like, man, I don't like listening to him. So I'm like, man. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a year, see what happens. And so it's been going well. But now he holds it over my head. He's like, I need a 2% management fee. I'm like, listen.
Right, because he called it and he was aware and he said, look, I'm finna help you be great. And you were like, I don't know. But for real, y'all, look at this. Hold on. I'm going to do this because y'all have got to see like how bomb these pictures are. Do y'all see this? Y'all see this? Yes. It's a whole thing, but I love that. I love that you were like, I love what I do. I love who I am, but there's something additional that I need.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes it gets hard because you're like, how can that be? How can I love being a stay-at-home mom? How can I love my family, my kids, like what I'm doing, but I still don't feel fulfilled.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like I need something that's just mine. And sometimes people think of that as being selfish, but a lot of times I know that I've done that, but I'm now in this place of a lot of times having to tell myself that it's not being selfish to love you. It's not, it's not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have to teach our children that there are some things that they're going to want to do that we're like, wow, okay. And we're like, I don't know where that came from, but sure, be great. You know what I mean? And again, we're not advocating for things that are detrimental to them spiritually, mentally, or physically. We're not advocating for that. However, there can be things like my kid wants to skateboard. And I'm like, really? My child? Okay. You know what I mean? Like there's little things that can be for you. And I think taking those leaps are important because we're teaching our little girls to take leaps too.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's the thing, because I think that what you're doing now may seem like this is extra and it may be hard. And there may be times that you do have to juggle, but it doesn't impede your capacity. I think it increases your capacity.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I feel like there's always going to be like, those people that are like, well, you're putting too much time into that and you need to be there for your kids and and all this stuff. But it's just like, I mean, like you said, like, I need it for me. Like if I, kind of like how you were saying before, there'd be times where I'd be snappy and like all this kind of stuff. And it's just because there's no outlet for me to kind of just like do what I want to do. And so having that, yes, it takes a lot more time and I do have to juggle a lot of things, but I mean, at the end of the day, like it does, like it makes me better and it makes me happier. And I think, like you said, like the family and the household and everybody else, like it's reflected in that. So,
yes. Hello.
Yeah.
Girl, my house is so much happier. When mommy has her little away days. Oh, girl, they love it. They love it. And again, like I've been so much better. So it's less of like the negative thing. It's more of you're so happy, you're so rested. Now we can play all day and have no issues. You know what I mean? Cutting back on meetings or just, regulate them to certain times, like all of those things, because, what I do on this side, is my passion. That is my love. So I totally understand it, but it can be a lot when you're talking about a 9 to 5, because unlike Des, I told her when I said, you're stay at home mom, absolutely not. We're not going to have that conversation. I'm not doing that. And then we were in COVID. And I think she's probably laughing like, bet you are now.
Right.
I bet you are.
You got a little taste of it, didn't you?
Exactly. I was like, And girl, as soon as those school doors open, hey y'all, bye. it's for you. Like, but it's a thing, but there's so much that people have expectations of when you're talking about relationship. They think that it means that you have to be with the person all the time or doing things together all the time, in the way that they want you to do it. And really, sometimes building relationships means you need to build with relationship with you first, and determine what that looks like for you and what you need in one before you can be effective in another relationship, even with your baby, your toddler or your kid. Like it really depends on how you engage with yourself first.
Yeah,
I think that's a thing.
Really agree.
I think it's a thing. I think it's a thing. I think it's a thing. How do you think that this has, having a daughter, how do you think it has changed how you mother?
Ooh, that's a good question. I honestly, I feel like I'm kind of tougher on her than I was with my son. I think it's because she's a girl and I'm a girl. I'm like,
Right.
listen, I know what you can and can't handle. Like,
That's me.
so I feel like I'm a little tougher on her. But and I feel like I have less patience too sometimes, like just because, yeah, I don't know.
Because I can tell you why.
Please do. Maybe
It's because she is louder, she is more vocal, she knows exactly the buttons to push. She has that moment that you look at her and you're like, I know you didn't. And she's like, did. I
and laugh
absolutely
about
did.
it.
It's that. And you're like, and this is why.
Yeah.
This is why. But girls have these personalities that are beautiful, but they're absolutely complex and they are fully dynamic, right? Like sometimes our sons can coast. Like we're fine. Like, yeah, they can be loud and like to play and stuff like that. But real talk, they're real even in comparison. You're laughing because you know exactly what I mean.
It's so true.
This right here, you know what I mean? They're real even in comparison. And our girls be like, whoop. And I mean, it's just very, very, very dynamic. And I think that that's a thing, because I think the saying is that you're harder on the same gender and easier on the opposite. I think that that's true, because my middle one, Sterling, is probably the one who gets over on me the most.
Yeah.
Like 1000% gets over on me the most. And he runs the house. Like,
oh gosh.
And I'd be like, this is probably a bad idea. I probably should stop this before he turns 6. He's already 5. So
you're in for it.
I am. But I think that for me, when I talk about what's changed about mothering, not only do I realize that, yes, I can definitely be, my expectations for her are really, really high. And she's not even 1 yet. But I think that also I'm having to do a lot more reflection on what my own personal past traumas may have been. Like, why are you responding to, in certain ways? Why do you have issue when people do certain things around her, or you have more protective tendencies in this way with her? And so I think kind of addressing that, and things that I don't think came up with the boys. I don't think, I mean, I'm a helicopter mom in some ways, but I think it got louder with her, especially because, again, going back to, I didn't have her for as long. Like, I'm always feeling like I'm behind the curve. And so I'm extra like vigilant about having the time, making up the time, making sure she's extra protected and all of these other things. But then there are certain responses that I have. I'm like, okay, what happened to you that you're taking this totally left,
Yeah.
I think
Right.
that's
Yeah, it's true. I think I see a lot of that in myself too. Like, and even, looking back at my relationship with my mom and seeing how like that's kind of reflecting on my relationship with Noelle.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely true. Just having that reflection and making sure I'm not allowing my past hurts that maybe I haven't dealt with, affect her, and then just have that like, snowball effect and just like continuing down the line. Like, again, going back to self-care, like making sure I'm taking care of myself and dealing with those things so I could be better for her. But yeah, for sure.
I think that's the best thing that we can do. I really do. Like, being intentional about not passing certain things down.
Yeah.
because you talked about a snowball effect, and it really is. It starts small,
Yeah.
and it gets real big. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah. Yeah.
because you'll look down the line, you're like, wow, that's not what I thought was going to happen. And it absolutely has manifested in a way that's like, this is not at all. And I think that we owe that to not only ourselves, but to our children. Sorry, guys, I'm going to plug up my computer to make sure that they have access to the best version of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not the ones that we've created for other people or for social media or
Right.
for our own personal pride, but our actual best selves, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Giving them
Definitely.
access to that.
Yeah. I think another thing too, it's just like the way this generation is now and like how early kids are getting exposed to things. Like,
Girl.
I feel like when it comes to my son, like, yes, I'm like, kind of aware and like a helicopter mom in that respect.
Yeah.
Like he has his dad for that, and I feel
Yep.
like he's gonna learn a majority of that from him. But for me, like Noelle's gonna learn a lot of that from me. So like, just making sure I'm teaching her like, what's okay, what's not okay, like not getting exposed too early to things. And if she
Right.
is, like making sure I correct it like immediately. Like,
Yes.
so I mean, just figuring out that balance too. Like, I think that's changing how I parent as well. Like just being more aware, like not so laid back and like, but also not being so restrictive either that it's like she gets older and like goes off the rails.
Right. Because there has to be balance.
Yes.
We talked about that. And I mean, it's a thing because I never thought about it like that until you said, like, yeah, I do expect Robbie to do most of the teaching with the boys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the fun parent.
Yeah.
It's not my responsibility. Like, I'm aware of what's going on. I correct what I see and what I know, but I agree with you. And I think it just hit me as you're talking about, oh, that is what I do.
Yeah.
I do. They have a good relationship with Rob. They talk all the time. Like there is this, okay, oh, but with her, that may be why I'm always like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. They
Right.
don't have access to you. You won't be watching that, even though you're not even one. Like, no, you know what I mean? Like, and I can absolutely see that because again, there is so much that kids are exposed to now, but really it's because of access. The internet is real.
Yeah.
Like phones, computers, tablets, there's so much more that
Yeah.
they have access to and thoughts and agendas that just don't feed them.
Mm-hmm.
That just don't feed them. And so having to be more vigilant in that area, more aware, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
about that and being aware of my responsibility to her. Because yeah, I would definitely say I'm the fun parent. Shoot. Well, that's convicting. I need to go apologize to my husband. Oh, and it's funny because he had said before, he was like, they come to you for certain things. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
we're good. Everything's fine. And now I'm sitting here like, maybe,
Maybe you're
maybe.
right.
But you never think about that because what you think about is, oh, they have a present dad. You want them to have a relationship with him. So yeah, you do all of that. But I don't think I've ever really thought about it like that. But I have noticed the differences in the way that I do mother her.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. But I do not want to be super restrictive so that she does go off the rails because that ain't cute either.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's the thing. So I want you to share with the girls maybe your top 2 or 3 tips for building intentional relationship as we wrap up.
Well, let's see, 2 or 3 tips. I don't want to just like repeat everything we said, but like make sure you are taking care of yourself. Whatever that looks like, whether it's starting a side hustle or it's reading more books or taking time alone or hanging out with girlfriends, like whatever it is, just taking that time for you. Another tip would just be, making sure you're actually getting to know your daughter and not just like spending time, like truly getting to know. Like I know when they're little, that's a little harder. That's more like observation, like actually watching what they're doing. But like as they get older, like really get to know them. Like don't just have meaningless conversations. Like learn about what they're passionate about, their dislikes, their likes, why do they have those things, not just, just kind of really getting like into those deep conversations. And then let's see what else. I mean, I guess just being active in their life. So like, not just like, yes, having those relationships, those conversations, spending time, but just like, always being there, being present. Like it may not necessarily be like, hanging out with them, but like if they have a game, be there for them. Like,
Yes.
You may not even say, you may just be cheering and they don't even say nothing to you, like, oh mom, you're so embarrassing. But the fact that you're there, like, just being present, and like even just with everyday stuff, like I know phones and everything are just like everyone's constantly on their phones, like put your phone down, like really be, in the moment. I know that's kind of a struggle for me sometimes, but yeah. So just putting the phone down, being in the moment. Because even sometimes with the kids, it's like they always want the tablets, and I'm like, put them down. Like, but then I realized, oh, well, I'm on my phone. So.
Right. Maybe you could pick them up a little bit.
Right.
It's a thing. It's a thing. I love all of those tips. I think that all of them will help us to grow and maintain these intentional relationships that we want with our daughters, our kids in general.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the key. I think that's the key is to really celebrate who our parents were, but also to really look to be even better. Right. We want to be the best parents for our children, and what that looks like. And so getting to know them is key. Getting to know yourself is key. Being intentional, being present, being active, all of those things will help you to do that. Because, when our kids become adults, we want them to want to be around us.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that that's my goal. My goal is, yes, I'm the fun parent and we're having a good time now, but as an adult, I want to be able to have like this long lasting relationship with my girl. I think that that's my goal.
Yeah. And I think that definitely starts early on for sure.
I mean,
like trying to start that when they're teenagers, like, who are you?
Right. Because I knew who I was as a teenager. We ain't playing that. Like, yep. Either you were rolling with me when we was young or not. Like, no, it's a thing. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me for Girl Chat this month. You were amazing, as I knew that you would be.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It was so fun.
Yes, well, we always have a lot of fun. So that I was not worried about. But I want you to share your handles and your website so that the girls can connect with you and potentially use your services if they're in your area.
Yeah, absolutely. So my personal Instagram is just at Desboard, DESBOARD, like a chalkboard. And then my photography page is Desboard Photography. So they should both pretty much pop up.
Yeah.
And then my website is desboard.com. So super easy to find everything.
My kind of girl.
But yeah.
That's it. I mean, because y'all know everything's patch. Won't do anything fancy over here. I want it to be simple. My hope is that the girls will connect with you. I hope that you all got something amazing from our conversation today. Des has been a blessing to me. She and her husband both have been a blessing to Rob and I on this journey. And so I thought that it would be super helpful for you guys to see kind of the other village that we have built. Because a lot of times we think we only need one, but sometimes you need more than one.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need more than one. So again, thank you all so much for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed. I can't wait for next month. Oh my gosh, next month is December. This year has
blown by. Oh my gosh.
Man, I was so prepared to say that time. Right. Okay. Well, all right. Well, I will see y'all next month. I'm excited. I love you all. Make it a great week. Bye.